finding those little sparks and then running with them, and take it as far as you can go. As long as it's healthy and doesn't wear you down, just find that light and listen to suggestions from other people.
There are opportunities for our work and careers everywhere, if you know where to look. That's easier said than done, especially in our fast-paced and constantly changing world. Marianne Faremouth is talking to experts, employers, and job seekers to bring you insight and understanding about what's possible. This is Career Can Do, where we're navigating the new work world.
Welcome to the Career Can Do podcast. My name is Marianne Faremouth. I'm a career consultant, author, and recruiting coach. And today I have the distinct honor and pleasure to visit with someone that I hold in very high esteem. DeDe DeMayo is the founder, producer, and the host of a wonderful production company that's called Beyond the Edge. And I really feel like DeDe and her partner, Brandy Dooch, do go beyond the edge, because what they're doing is putting people on this show that are trying to get in alignment with who they are. But then more importantly, especially for what we're talking about here in the work world, they're getting into alignment, becoming their best self, but more importantly, they're trying to give back. And as a recruiter for so many years, I'm finding that's exactly what customers and employers are needing in this new work world. So without further ado, let me introduce DeDe DeMayo. DeDe, say hello to everybody.
Hey, Marianne, how are you? So happy to be on the show. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you. And I really wanted to have her on here because, as I said, it is a new work world. And what I'm hearing, DeDe, from so many of my customers is that they want people in this new work world that really want to go beyond, all right, make a difference, all right, become their best self, but more importantly, give back. So tell us a little bit about how you got started in your Go Beyond podcast and what made you do it, and tell us a little bit about what the function of it is.
Well, there's a lot of interesting areas that led me to this, but first and foremost, I can say that I became involved with people through nonprofit organizations and volunteering, and became exposed to being on a radio program a couple of years ago, and then also being co-host or guest on filming TV shows for how to keep relationships together and things like that. And I figured after all that with my life, I'm 60, I became an empty nester this year. And in all my experience, I was like, I have something else still to do. And it's not just my format as far as presenting my show. My show and Brandy's show is about bringing on the collective of the right energy of people to facilitate change and positive change in this world. So, we have a voice. We came together so guided by our thoughts and our prayers and just our life, and just decided that, the best way to accommodate what we need to say and have a voice and find others that want to share their experience and their knowledge and give back in that way. We just thought, Beyond the Edge, it's the true safe space. And everybody can just jump off and feel safe and say things and do things and talk about things that you can't talk about everywhere else. So.
I think it's wonderful. And I had the honor and the pleasure to be on your show and talk about what I do. I met Brandy at a Women of the World meeting, and she is just so full of light and energy, and so has such a heart. I just feel, DeDe, that, what you're doing, helping, empowering people to become their best self, to grow beyond, that's so much of what I'm hearing my clients tell me they want right now. Because with everyone, as you know, that's been so affected by the last several months with what we've all dealt with, the workplace is different. And if you have the attitude of going beyond, of giving back, of trying to, take courses or listen to podcasts like yours, or doing something that's above and beyond, that's what employers want. And so I thought, how great that DeDe and Brandy are doing this, because if a candidate should go into an interview and say along the lines of what you're doing, that gets my client's attention. And that's exactly what they are looking for. And so I'm thrilled. And did you do this during COVID or pre-COVID, or what was the timing of it?
It was really interesting because I had thought, because of COVID, all the places, and things we were doing as far as filming and radio, they were pretty much shut down. We didn't have access to what we were doing. So I was literally sitting like in my living room and talking to God. I say God, and some people say spirit, and just saying, okay, I still feel like I have something to say. But if you want me to do a radio show or something like that, I need someone to come to me to let me, I need like validation. I needed to know for sure that was the right path. And I swear the next day I get this message from someone that has a radio network. And he said, can you put this show together for me? And it was about spirituality and, being your higher self and things like that. And then it was so funny because I also had picked the name for the show. And I won't say the name of the show that we were on, but what I picked was Beyond the Edge. And literally the name meant we had already, Brandy and I, energetically and spiritually, had already outgrown the invitation to do that show. So we were there. We did like 3 shows. And we just looked at we don't have the freedom to bring our voices or people that can positively change the world and impact, whether it's their own business, their own experience or anything. So we just created our own. And I feel like we have the opportunity to have guests on here that really can impact people at every level of life, every age of life. So.
Well, I think it's wonderful. I remember seeing one of your shows. You had a gal on there from New York. And I believe she was a yoga instructor.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in the throes of this challenge that we've been in. And she was out there, working with people and wasn't charging them, but she was out there trying to help people relax and do yoga and do some other kinds of training and all this and that. And I think that's one good thing about what we've been through with this last 18 months is that I think people became more concerned about others. And I think, if they have that same mentality, DeDe, and they bring it into the workplace and then they interview that way, but, they're honest and true about it, what employer is not going to want that? And I do think the other thing, too, is that, mindfulness now is really become front and center, and all these different kinds of, yoga and Tai Chi and meditation and those kinds of things that help people get more in alignment and calm down. Because I think that what I'm hearing is, because of all the uncertainty and not really knowing things that are going to go on in the future, it adds more stress. And if people are real stressed out, they're not as good of a producer on their job as they are without that. So do you agree that doing some of those mindfulness practices, I think Brandy even, wasn't she a yoga teacher at one time? Didn't she do
Brandy
something?
Brandy still does yoga teaching, yoga classes, individual therapy and yoga classes for clients. And we're also theta healing practitioners. But back to your question about, the mindfulness part, what I think that COVID, this time of being redirected and basically, on lockdown for a while, many people have woken up to the fact that they, had to do internal inventory, whether it's an employee, whether it's a mom or dad or a business or anything like that, business owner. They needed to take stock of, what really mattered, what direction they could go, and chunk the nonsense, chunk the expectations that they once had, and really find out what was important. So I think it affected every level. And I think that's why we're hearing like, okay, we can't find employees. Sometimes it's because the employer has changed what they require. And being able to find out what that is through someone like yourself, who is a recruiter, that helps them know, do they have the right stuff to offer? Is the employer the right employer for them? But it's taking that personal inventory, that pause and looking at what's really important, what direction you want to go. And I advise the young people that would be listening to the podcast is to do that early. Don't spend your time in a job or any situation that just wears you down. There's people that can help you find the right place for you, what makes you happy, and they can help you facilitate getting there yourself. Marianne, you're excellent at that. And then people, that we have on our show, that's the whole purpose of the show, is to help people find the resources they need to empower themselves and make productive changes and healthy life choices to go forward from this point on.
I think that's just wonderful. And I think that that's more important now than it's ever been. And it's so funny you bring this up, because just before we got on this podcast, I had a coaching client that is a teacher, and she's been a teacher for many, many years. And she's decided that, maybe that's not what she wants to do going forward. And, she had a death in the family, and the death made her stop in her tracks. And I think in some ways what we've been through the last 18 months has been a death of what we knew went on and how we lived our lives. And so it's made all of us reevaluate. And sometimes that reevaluation process, DeDe, isn't, it's painful. It's not fun. It's scary. It's full of fear, but it allows us to take the next step to become better, And so I'm so happy that you have a program like this. And tell me a little bit of, you said you had a radio TV background. I know you did nonprofit, but how did you get into all of that?
So, well, as I was saying, it just kind of happened. I started participating and really giving up my time. My youngest daughter and I were really involved in several nonprofits in the area that we live in, as well as her being the first state representative for a bullying prevention organization that's in Florida. So it just really opened up a lot of doors. You find when you give, so many opportunities are just like bam, bam, bam. And always try to walk through them. Always try to go through that door and see what's on the other side. Don't be afraid of it. So, and I was asked simply one day, I was standing there filming at a radio station just because I had gone up there to do a donation. And I was doing, with my iPhone or whatever. And the girl that was hosting the radio station that day, she's like, come on, get over here and say what you got to say. And I was like, I have something to say. I mean, it was this really crazy realization that someone at a radio station said, you have something to offer, and I was like, wow. So, finding those little sparks and then running with them, and take it as far as you can go. As long as it's healthy and doesn't wear you down, just find that light and listen to suggestions from other people. Don't live their dream or their whatever, make it your own. But if a door opens, and that's what it did for me. And I was like, wow, I'm not scared to talk on the radio. I figured I would just clam up, but it didn't happen. So, that's pretty much a good testing ground or testing way to find out that you're doing the right thing. It's not difficult.
I think that's so important and so true. And I think anyone who would tune into your show, they're on the fence about making a change. And they hear someone on your show that's done it and been successful at it. Sometimes, DeDe, that gives them the incentive to go forward. Right. And I think that's an important thing. But I think a lot of good things have come out of this last several months. Unfortunately, it's been somewhat alienating and a lot of people working from home. And now we have what we call hybrid work situations. We work sometime at the office, sometimes at home. But I think the internet in some ways has allowed us to expand. I heard from someone I talked to that was at a conference, and the usual attendees of the conference was 500 when they had it in person. But because they opened it up to hybrid and online, they had 10,000 people sign up for this. And I know myself, I take lots of courses online. I take lots of, I'm a writer. I take lots of writing courses and have taken some computer courses. But I think the other advantage of that is that you have the expansive awareness of some other people from different countries that can talk to you about what their experience is, and it's enriching. Don't you agree with that?
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I find that so true that just this little dream, I thought that we'd have this little radio station or show or whatever locally. We've already been international. We were international like the second week with guests international, and our show is going international. So, it's limitless when you trust and fall beyond, I say it's beyond the edge of fear, beyond the edge of your own thinking of limitations, and less tried and just don't want to do it anymore. Give it a shot, whatever it is, and just enjoy life, enjoy your job, enjoy your people around you and your relationships at every level. And I was going to say earlier, when you mentioned about people have had to change their jobs and do introspective, we were talking about that. One thing I found earlier, I was having a conversation with a friend. She said that she watched a video. It was a show about people that were like in Broadway. That's all they've done. They've been in Broadway for 25 years. And then all of a sudden that came to a screeching halt. The world situation took something from them because they had what I would say tunnel vision. They didn't allow themselves to see a broader scope for their life. If this wasn't there, what else would you enjoy doing? Don't limit yourself to just that one thing. You could be an expert, but still have things that you find value in or resources for yourself to pull from if things happen that you no longer have that job or that livelihood or whatever. So I do like 8 different things to make sure I have income because I don't like working for other people. It's not good for me. So I created resources in different avenues. And pretty much I can say I'm retired. I don't have to punch a clock, but yet I still earn income.
That's wonderful. And I so relate to what you're saying because, I've been a recruiter for many, many years, over 30 years. And, when this situation happened, I saw these people getting laid off that had, good skills that could be transferred into other areas. And so, that's when I wrote my second book, which is a companion to the first book called Revolutionary Reinvention, which is a workbook. But talking about, expansiveness and going beyond and stepping out of your comfort zone, I think you've got something else on the docket here. Don't you have something that's something to do with impossible conversations or some kind of new program?
Yeah, so I'm actually the co-host of Beyond the Edge because I just don't like the front seat. I mean, I don't have to be the driver. But, my host, my partner, Brandy Deutsch, she and I have come up with another show. And she has named it Impossible Conversations. We're in the filming process of it now. So people can, watch our Facebook, social media, YouTube, Anchor FM, and our website, beyondtheedgeproductions.com, to see when that's going to be airing. Hopefully soon. We're starting our filming. So it's going to be good. It's going to be really about things that are edgy and people don't want to talk about, but yet you have to talk about them. And, sometimes conspiracy theories, when we're going to listen to both sides. We're not going to be some of the news channels that only feed one type of agenda. We want to hear from both sides, not just our opinion as hosts, not just the guest opinion as hosts or coming in as guests, but, our audience. We want to have that kind of interaction. So I think that's really going to open up the door for that.
So in other words, you're having a program that's going to allow people to have a voice,
Exactly.
to have a voice to express themselves. And we look at our world and to not have judgment, to respect a person, even if their ideas, even if their beliefs are not in alignment with our own, to have that respect level, to honor them as the human being they are. If we keep, doing things that promote that, I can't imagine that we wouldn't have a better world because I think we wouldn't be so judgmental. And, I think that also transfers into the workplace. If you go into the workplace and maybe you're a little different than the culture there, but you're respectful of where you're going to work and you don't come across in the interview as having judgment and negativity. I think negativity, let's talk about that because that's important. That's what I hear all the time. When I have clients call me back with feedback, it wasn't as important pre-COVID, but post-COVID, if these candidates go into interviews now and they're negative or they're complaining about something, the chances of them getting a job are very slim. Because everybody, as we know, has had their own set of challenges.
Right.
And they want somebody that's going to be more harmonious. Now, I'm not talking about going in and being in la la land and being superficial. I'm talking about going in and doing your homework beforehand, knowing what you can bring to them, but presenting yourself in a positive way. And I think that's kind of an offset of what you're talking about is your Impossible Conversations is a platform for people to come in and express who they are and what they believe without judgment.
Right.
And I think if we had a world like that, my goodness, how much happier would we all be?
A good example of that is Brandy and I ourselves. Even though we had this amazing chemistry as friends and as hosts and business partners, we don't agree on everything. But we don't annihilate each other over it either because we respect the fact that we're at different places. We've experienced different things. We don't try to force our agendas on each other as friends or co-business partners or anything, but we found a common ground where our goal is to help others. And as long as we always focus on that, everything else is really inconsequential. We're not hurting ourselves. We're not hurting anybody else. So what? We don't agree on everything. Yeah. We don't have to.
And that reminds me of something I said to my son. I have two amazing sons. They're both brainiacs. They're both very accomplished. I'm so proud of both of them. But the other day I said to one of them, I said, it's not so much what you say. It's how you say it. Okay. Yeah. And I think the same thing in the workplace. If you go into your boss and you say that idea or that way you want to do that Excel spreadsheet, that's crazy. That's ridiculous. You're going to put them on the defensive right away. If you want to say, what, I understand why you want to do that. It's maybe not the way I've done it, but I've been doing my research and I have another idea that I'd like to run past you that might have us be more profitable, or it might be less time consuming so that we can do more sales or do more other things that would affect the bottom line. you know what? You've got his attention. Okay.
Right.
You've got
Right.
his attention. And it's not so much what you said, but it's the same thing as saying that idea is ridiculous, but it's the way you said it. If you come across and present yourself, whether it's in business, whether it's in friendship, whether it's in a love relationship. Okay. Now, I have to be honest. I'm a very direct person. I had to really I was married to a man, God bless him. He died suddenly, but he was a little different in his presentation than I was. And I had to learn real fast that if I came across like that, it wasn't really going to be to my advantage. Okay.
Right.
So I think you learn as you get older how to present yourself. And I think, like we said, it's not so much what you say is how you say it, but some of the people you've had, and if somebody wanted to be a guest on your show, what kind of people do you look for, DeDe?
Well, we look for people that are interested. There can be business owners. They can be moms, dads, pastors, lawyers, anybody really that feels like what they are doing can benefit others. And they want to, it's like sharing staged wisdom. Okay. If you have something like that and you want to come on the show and talk about it, message us at Beyond the Edge Productions on Facebook, Beyond the Edge TV, or email at host.beyondtheedge@gmail.com or director@beyondtheedgeproductions.com. And, there's several ways. We're on like 6 or 8 different platforms that y'all can find online, social medias.
Do you have a website too?
Yes, it's beyondtheedgeproductions.com. And it has an email contact and a phone number and everything there. But we want to have people that are awake, or even people that aren't quite sure where they're at spiritually, energetically, or business. Give us a shout. Let us talk about what your idea is, and possibly you'll be a guest. Well, we really have had some amazing people, everything from doctors talking about things, yoga instructors,
career consultants.
Yeah, you. Career consultant. And the great thing about you, when we had our show and you were on, Marianne, was your information is so broad. Like, it covers not just work, right? It covers not just the employee. I had said, when we were talking, I was like, wow, empty nesters really need to get your book. They need to really look at that next step instead of sitting and wallowing and being an empty nester. Explore life. And the information you have really crosses a lot of different situations. So you're not just a career person.
And I thank you for that. I do. And I think that does differentiate me in some ways. I'm very holistic. I look at many dimensions, and, I look at the person, I look at the career path, I look at where you are in your life. I try to, find out what is it that you're looking for right now, and realistically try to align you with that. But I think at the end of the day, I think you'll agree with this, is that if we can try to start with us, internal, all right? I have a 5-step method. The first step is do a self-inventory. That's where it all begins, okay? Who are you? What is important to you right now? Because as you know, DeDe, as we get older, what was important in our 20s is not important. It's important in our 50s. We change. Where are you right now? What is it important to you? What are these last 18 months brought to the surface? Look at them. Because I think right now all the statistics are showing, lots of people are leaving their job. And there's a massive exodus out there. And I think people are searching and they're seeking for something better. So if we can have a show like Beyond the Edge, and then, impossible conversations that can help you facilitate, what you're looking for, and help you dig deep, or hear someone else's story that maybe has gone through what you're going through and then came out on the other side successfully. I think that gives somebody hope. And I think that's so important, because there's nothing worse than being in a job, being in a career, being in a marriage, being in a relationship that is unfulfilling, where you feel stuck. That's what we all are looking at right now. So I was so impressed with Brandy. I am a member of Women of the World. I met Elle from a Toastmasters meeting. We're both area directors, and a big contest. And that's how I met Elle. And, Elle's certainly an international, very, very brainiac, wonderful woman. And we met way back when. And then, of course, for Women of the World, that's where I met Brandy. But I'm thrilled that you're doing Beyond the Edge. I'm happy for you with your new show. And for all our listeners out there, if you're looking to make a change in your life and you're afraid to do it, sometimes hearing someone else's journey, hearing what they've done, and, I don't think it's so bad to fail. I don't think it's so bad to make a mistake, because we always learn from that. So anyway, tune in to Beyond the Edge. Check them out on you're on all the social media platforms. Is that
all
right?
social media and 8 different podcasts. And we also have TV shows at Houston Media Source online, which is like Comcast 17 and things like that. So we're a lot of places.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right. Well, check them out. If you're driving right now and you're not remembering the website address or where they are, you can always go to faremouth.com. That's FAREMOUTH. Send me an email, and I certainly will connect you with Beyond the Edge. So in closing, if you had to say 2 things, DeDe, to the listeners out there that are maybe on the fence about making a change in their life, what would the 2 inspirational things be that you would tell them to do?
Realize that you have the power to create
Wonderful.
your life.
We have the power. We certainly do. Again, this is Mary Ann Faremouth. This is the Career Can Do podcast. I've got DeDe DeMayo with me. And tune in next time for our podcast to help you navigate in the new work world. Thanks so much, DeDe. I appreciate your time so much. It's been delightful.
Thank you.
We thank you for tuning in to our Career Can Do podcast. We make no guarantees on results for your particular quest, but we hope you enjoy the information presented. Thank you.